But just then, footsteps echoed again. He appeared, looking less sullen than I'd ever seen him, strutty, whistling, unbuttoning his trousers and letting go with a forceful splash. He whistled along, jaunty as a jaybird in a field of sunflowers. And as he was leaving, an open box on the bureau summoned his attention. It was a cigar box in which my friend kept recipes torn out of newspapers and other junk, as well as a cameo brooch her father had long ago given her. Okay, so that's a piece of jewelry, costume jewelry, a pin. Sentimental value aside, her imagination had conferred upon the object a rare costliness. Whenever we had cause for serious grievance against her sisters or Uncle B, she would say, "Never mind, buddy. We'll sell my cameo and go away. We'll take the bus to New Orleans." Though never discussing what we would do once we arrived in New Orleans or what we would live on after the cameo money ran out, we both relished this fantasy. Perhaps each of us secretly realized the brooch was only a Sears Roebuck novelty. All the same, it seemed to us a talisman of true, though untested, magic, a charm that promised us our freedom if indeed we did decide to pursue our luck in fabled spheres. So my friend never wore it, for it was too much a treasure to risk its loss or damage. Now I saw Odd's sacrilegious fingers reach toward it, watched him bounce it in the palm of his hand, drop it back in the box, and turn to go. Then return. This time he swiftly retrieved the cameo and sneaked it into his pocket. My boiling first instinct was to rush out of the closet and challenge him. At that moment, I believe I could have pinned Odd to the floor. But, well, do you recall how in simpler days funny paper artists used to illustrate the birth of an idea by sketching an incandescent light bulb above the brow of Mutt or Jeff or whomever? That's how it was with me. A sizzling light bulb suddenly radiated my brain. The shock and brilliance of it made me burn and shiver, laugh too. Odd had handed me an ideal instrument for revenge, one that would make up for all the cockleburs. In the dining room, long tables had been joined to shape a T. Uncle B was at the upper center, Mrs. Mary Taylor Wheelwright at his right, and Mrs. Conklin at his left. Odd was seated between two of the Conklin sisters, one of them Annabel, whose compliments kept him in top condition. My friend had put herself at the foot of the table among the younger children. According to her, she had chosen the position because it provided quicker access to the kitchen. But of course it was because that was where she wished to be. Queenie, who had somehow got loose, was under the table, trembling and wagging with ecstasy as she skittered between the rows of legs. But nobody seemed to object, probably because they were hypnotized by the uncarved, lusciously glazed turkeys and the excellent aromas rising from the dishes of okra and corn, onion fritters, and hot mince pies. My own mouth would have watered if it hadn't gone bone dry at the heart-pounding prospect of total revenge. For a second, glancing at Odd Henderson's suffused face, I experienced a fragmentary regret, but I really had no qualms. Uncle B recited grace. Head bowed, eyes shut, calloused hands prayerfully placed, he intoned, "Bless you, O Lord, for the bounty of our table, the varied fruits we can be thankful for on this Thanksgiving day of a troubled year." His voice, so infrequently heard, croaked with the hollow imperfections of an old organ in an abandoned church. Amen. Then, as chairs were adjusted and napkins rustled, the necessary pause I had been listening for arrived. "Someone here is a thief!" I spoke clearly and repeated the accusation in even more measured tones. "Odd Henderson is a thief. He stole Miss Sook's cameo." Napkins gleamed in suspended, immobilized hands. Men coughed. The Conklin sisters gasped in quadruplet unison, and little Perk McLeod Jr. began to hiccup, as very young children will when startled. My friend, in a voice teetering between reproach and anguish, said, "Oh, but he doesn't mean that. He's only teasing." "I do mean it. If you don't believe me, go look in your box. The cameo isn't there. Odd Henderson has it in his pocket." "Oh, but he's had a bad croup," she murmured. "Don't blame him, Odd. He hasn't a notion what he's saying." I said, "Go look in your box. I saw him take it." Uncle B, staring at me with an alarming wintriness, took charge. "Well, maybe you'd better," he told Miss Sook. "That should settle the matter." It was not often that my friend disobeyed her brother. She did not now. But her pallor, the mortified angle of her shoulders, revealed with what distaste she accepted the errand. She was gone only a minute, but her absence seemed an eon. Hostility sprouted and surged around the table like a thorn-encrusted vine growing with uncanny speed. And the victim trapped in its tendrils was not the accused, but his accuser. Stomach sickness gripped me. Odd, on the other hand, seemed calm as a corpse. Miss Sook returned, smiling. "Oh, shame on you, buddy," she chided, shaking a finger. "Playing that kind of joke. My cameo was exactly where I left it." Uncle B said, "Buddy, I want to hear you apologize to our guest." "No, you don't have to do that," Odd Henderson said, rising. "He was telling the truth." He dug into his pocket and put the cameo on the table. "I wish I had some excuse to give, but I ain't got none." Starting for the door, he said, "You must be a special lady, Miss Sook, to fib for me like that." And then, damn his soul, he walked right out of there. So did I. Except I ran. I pushed back my chair, knocking it over. The crash triggered Queenie. She scooted from under the table, barked and bared her teeth. And Miss Sook, as I went past her, tried to stop me. "Buddy!" But I wanted no part of her or Queenie. That dog had snarled at me, and my friend had taken Odd Henderson's side. She'd lied to save his skin, betrayed our friendship, my love, things I'd thought could never happen. Simpson's pasture lay below the house, a meadow brilliant with high November gold and russet grass. At the edge of the pasture, where there were a gray barn, a pig corral, a fenced-in chicken yard, and a smokehouse. It was the smokehouse I slipped into, a black chamber cool on even the hottest summer days. It had a dirt floor and a smoke pit that smelled of hickory cinders and creosote. Rows of ham hung from the rafters. It was a place I'd always been wary of, but now its darkness seemed sheltery. I fell on the ground, my ribs heaving like the gills of a beach-stranded fish, and I didn't care that I was demolishing my one nice suit, the one with long trousers, by thrashing about on the floor in a messy mixture of earth and ashes and pork grease.